This is the San Francisco 49ers report. Coming up on today's show, the Niners have released their first depth chart of the preseason, so we're going to react to that here on the show. My name is Chase Sr. Thank you so much for hanging out. And a programming reminder, be sure to hit that subscribe button for daily Niners shows coming your way right here on the channel. But also, watch parties are back, and we will be live on Saturday night for preseason game number 1. Niners, Broncos at Levi's Stadium. We will be doing an hour pregame show, so hop on board. You don't want to miss it. The show begins at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. And if you've never watched one of our watch parties, it is the best place to experience a Niners game day outside of being at the actual game. We'll do that hour pregame show. Then we'll do the actual game, live play-by-play, audience interaction. Then after the game, we're going to react to everything that transpired. So some surprises here on this first Niners unofficial depth chart. At the quarterback position, no surprises. Although earlier this week, a little bit of a surprise with San Francisco releasing Tanner Mordecai, and Carter Bradley is now the QB3 behind Brock Purdy and Mac Jones. Bradley, he is the son of Gus Bradley, longtime defensive coordinator, former head coach for Jacksonville, and he is now the associate head coach for the Niners and an assistant under Robert Saleh. His workout was so good for the Niners last week, Kyle Shanahan said, we need to pick him up. Shanahan also looked at his preseason tape last year with the Las Vegas Raiders, and he was very impressed. As for Mac Jones, he has had a terrific training camp so far. And you can see why Shanahan really liked him in the pre-draft process going back to 2021 when the Niners took Trey Lance over him. Now, I don't think the Niners should have taken Mac Jones then, but you see what Jones is capable of in a scheme that fits him, as he has performed very, very well as QB2 for San Francisco throughout training camp so far, and I can't wait to see what he can do in the preseason with extended time. At the running back position, Christian McCaffrey is RB1, but then the Niners, and you'll see this throughout the show, they have a couple of players as backups on this depth chart. And so RB2 right now is split between Isaac Guerendo, who's dealing with a shoulder injury, and Patrick Taylor. RB3 is combined between Jordan James, the 5th-round rookie out of Oregon, and Corey Kiner, the UDFA out of Cincinnati, who originally went to LSU. And then after that, Amir Abdullah, who the Niners signed last week. Abdullah's been in the NFL since 2015, and the Niners have given him a lot of looks as a return man, as he's been very sure-handed and pretty productive in that area throughout his career. And so once the preseason opener comes around, I don't expect Brock Purdy to play in the first preseason game, especially with the Niners and Broncos having joint practices. That's pretty much going to be the preseason look for this Niners coaching staff. But at this running back position, with Guerendo out, I can't wait to see the likes of Jordan James and Corey Kiner, the two rookies, to see if they can solidify themselves as legitimate players. For James, can he get running back carries this year? For Kiner, can he make the 53, or is he going to be more so of that practice squad candidate? Flip the page to the wide receiver spot. The Niners don't have a slot receiver listed because Kyle Juszczyk is in there as a fullback, just doing some math with the personnel. And so at the X wide receiver spots, it's Jawan Jennings at wide receiver 1, and then Ricky Pearsall as the other outside wide receiver. Behind Jennings and Pearsall, it's a split between Jacob Cowing and Russell Gage. Cowing is not going to be able to practice until Raiders week when the Niners have those joint practices, but the veteran Russell Gage, who's been a productive player at the NFL level, especially with the Atlanta Falcons, I think he's in the mix to make this 53. And then outside of that, Demarcus Robinson and Jordan Watkins split there. And I think that this Niners receiver room without Brandon Ayuk is in a pretty good spot. I do like the talent in that room. Elsewhere at the wide receiver position, depth pieces here. Tariq Owens, the son of Terrell Owens, he's been able to develop a little bit. He's had some highlight reel-worthy plays throughout training camp. Junior Bergen, 7th-round pick out of Montana, more of a return man. But I want to see if the Niners give him a look at wideout throughout the preseason. The Niners did bring back Equinemius St. Brown, Isaiah Hodgins, and Robbie Chosen Anderson, who has 4.3 like speed, rounding out that wide receiver group. At tight end, George Kittle is the best tight end in all of football. Elite blocker, picking up yak, great hands, great in the red zone. He looks to be in the best shape of his career. I mean, we're talking about Kittle going into 2025 looking straight up yoked. With Deebo Samuel gone, Ayuk out, some question marks at wide receiver as far as Juwan Jennings being hurt. Can Ricky Pearsall stay healthy? Kittle's going to be more of a focal point in the passing game. He could have a career year if he can stay healthy. The tight end twos, Luke Farrell and Jake Tonches. But look, the Niners paid Farrell a decent sum, and he was one of the top blocking tight ends in football last year. I think that at the end of the day, he's going to be tight end too. But how many tight ends will the Niners have on the 53? And depending on that number and that roster crunch, who will be tight end 3/tight end 4? Jake Tonches, Ross Dwelly is back. Braden Willis in the mix too. Braden Willis, to his credit, has had a pretty good training camp. Along the offensive line, your starters from left tackle to right tackle. This is the first string right here. Trent Williams, Ben Bartch, Jake Brendel, Dominick Puni, Colton McKivitz. That was my prediction going into camp. That has stood put. The offensive line second stringers, I really worry about the depth here. Spencer Burford, the Niners are using him as an offensive tackle now, no longer as a guard. I don't think he's quick enough to play tackle at the next level, but he's the backup right now behind Trent Williams because Andre Dillard is still hurt. Nick Zackelj was getting run with the ones, but with Ben Bartch coming back, Zackelj is now LG2. Matt Hennessy is a pretty damn good option to be a backup center. He was a good player at Temple University and a top 3-round pick by the Atlanta Falcons a few years ago. Zach Johnson, a surprise there as the backup right guard behind Dominick Puni. And then Austin Pleasance. He had a good spring, but he has really struggled in one-on-ones. He's the backup right tackle behind Colton McKivitz. And then the third string offensive line group. Isaiah Prince, recently added. He started 6 games in his career. Played his college football at Ohio State. He's at left tackle. The rookie 7th-round pick, Connor Colby, more ahead of the game as a pass blocker than a run blocker. That's a surprise because he was a really good run blocker with Iowa, and they did a lot of the same things running the ball that Kyle Shanahan likes to do. So he's the third-string left guard. We'll be keeping our eyes on him to see if he can climb up the depth chart throughout the preseason. Drake Nugent, the UDFA, who the Niners signed last year post-draft out of Michigan. He started every game for the Michigan team that won the national championship, but Matt Hennessy has replaced him as the backup center. Drew Moss is a UDFA out of Colorado State. He's had some good moments throughout training camp so far. We'll see if that translates to game action. And then Isaac Alarcon is the third-string right tackle. Again, the offensive line depth is a grave concern for San Francisco going into 2025. Their starting offensive line is middle of the pack among the 32 teams in the NFL. If any injuries happen to the 5 starters along that Niners offensive line for those first stringers, not going to be good for this Niners offense this upcoming season. Let's hope and pray that injury luck can be on the side of the Niners here this year. Gotta plug this deal. These Fred Warner jerseys are 20% off, and for limited time only, they're available for $80. Nike jerseys, all-time player, all-pro Fred, best off-ball linebacker in the game, a fan favorite, model citizen, consummate pro. And these jerseys will last forever because Fred Warner is going to go down as an all-time Niner. He could retire right now, and I think that he would be an NFL Hall of Famer, getting enshrined in Canton, rocking that brown jacket. So get your jerseys now. You don't see many deals that are this great out there. $80 Fred Warner jerseys, but you have to use that link down below, chatsports.com/Warner, for that deal to apply. Get those 54 jerseys right now and get geared up for the upcoming 2025 campaign. All right, some surprises here on the defensive side of the ball, considering in years past, the Niners have been hard on rookies with their first depth charts. But rookie first-round pick Mykel Williams listed as a starter for San Francisco. Alongside him, Kevin Givens and Jordan Elliott manning the defensive tackle spots. And then obviously no surprise there with the former Defensive Player of the Year, Nick Bosa, lining up opposite of Mykel Williams at the other defensive end spot. Mykel Williams has had a really good training camp. The length, power, the physicality to his game, it's translating immediately to the NFL level. He can line up at defensive end. He can line up at defensive tackle. He has to get better as a pass rusher. I think he will eventually because the traits are there. Plus, I think the scheme will be friendly to him in that regard. But he's going to line up at defensive tackle on pass rushing downs. And I think that he's going to be able to dominate some guards. And at defensive end, at the very least, he is going to be a terrific edge setter against the run. Niners usually keep rookies a lot lower. Not Mykel Williams. To the second string defensive line, Bryce Huff, the big trade acquisition for San Francisco a couple of months ago at defensive end. He will get run with the ones on obvious passing situations to be that speed rusher opposite of Bosa, and I think that he's going to thrive in that role. Kalia Davis and the rookie second-round pick Alfred Collins at the defensive tackle positions with the second stringers, and then Sam Okuwano. He's hurt right now, but he's the backup defensive end behind Nick Bosa. To the third string defensive line, you see CJ West there. I think that he is on a precipitous rise, and he is going to climb up the depth chart. He is not a third string player. And shoot, once week one comes around on the road against the Seattle Seahawks, I think CJ West could start. I also think Evan Anderson should be a little bit higher. He too injured. Jonathan Garvin, Robert Beal at defensive end. We'll see if they even make this team. The Niners have added a couple of intriguing players of late in Jalen Allen and Bradley Anae, two players who thrived and played very well at the UFL level. I would say that Anae is the better player, and he was more productive at the UFL level. He did overlap with Robert Saleh a few years ago. Saleh even said the Jets thought that he was going to make the team, then he tore his ACL in the spring. But he was one of the top pass rushers in the UFL last year. At defensive tackle, Bruce Hector, and I've continued to say this, keep an eye out for Sebastian Valdez. Dominick Puni called him the Hulk. He is very strong, and he has a realistic shot to make the 53. The Niners might have him as a fourth-string defensive tackle right now, but he, too, could climb up that depth chart. So with that being said, I expect a lot of movement along the defensive line for San Francisco. And I am a little bit surprised that CJ West is with the threes right now. That's not going to be the case once the regular season comes around. Niners have a lot of off-ball linebackers, right? The starters right now, Luke Gifford at Sam, Fred Warner as the middle linebacker, and then D. Winters at will. Oftentimes, the Niners are only going to have two backers, and oftentimes, it's going to be Fred Warner and D. Winters. But Luke Gifford, who's been a career special teamer since coming out of Nebraska, has had a pretty good training camp, and he's made some decent plays in his career previously, mostly with the Tennessee Titans. He was also with the Dallas Cowboys. The LB2s, Curtis Robinson at Sam, Tatum Bethune, 7th-round pick from 2024 at middle linebacker, and then Nick Martin at will. We'll see if Nick Martin can get some snaps here as a rookie 3rd-round pick. And then elsewhere, Chaz Surratt, Stone Blanton, and Jalen Graham with the threes. Jalen Graham has made some pretty good plays throughout training camp. That's 9 total off-ball linebackers for San Francisco on the 90-man as of right now. At cornerback, going to be some shuffling here, but I do like the outside starters, and this will stay put. Renardo Green and Diamador Lenore. But I expect Upton Stout to replace Trey Brown as the slot nickel corner. Right now, San Francisco has Trey Brown there. He hasn't played that position so far in his career prior to 2025, but throughout training camp, he's been getting some snaps at nickel. He's been getting some snaps at outside corner. The corner depth here is definitely a concern, but Dallas Flowers has had a good camp. Darrell Luter Jr. is big, long, and he can run. Again, I think Stout replaces Brown to be a starter for this team. You have Eli Apple, Jacob Robinson, and Chase Lucas at the left corner, right corner, and nickel spots. Jacob Robinson is a UDFA out of BYU who's been making plays left and right on the ball. he is in the running too to be a backup corner and a depth piece at the corner position to make the 53. And then the Niners this week did add longtime veteran Fabian Moreau. Upton Stout, this is my prediction, is going to start week 1 for San Francisco. He has stolen the show at training camp. This coaching staff absolutely loves him. Richard Sherman said he was most impressed by Upton Stout when he was at camp on Monday. Fred Warner said he has it. And then Robert Saleh and Kyle Shanahan have spoken glowingly of the third-round pick out of Western Kentucky. At the safety spot, remember, Malik Mustafa is injured, so the starters right now, Jason Pinnock at free safety, Jair Brown at strong safety. How about the rookie Marquis Siegel being a backup here? Richie Grant, the other backup. So it's Siegel at free safety, and then Richie Grant at strong safety, and then the depth pieces. Derek Canteen, UDFA, Saron Neal, special teamer, and then Jalen Mahoney was let go last week and then brought back. The Niners have 7 total. I think 4 make the 53-man roster. Pinnock, Brown, Siegel, Grant. Saron Neal could be a practice squatter and then elevated up to the active roster for game day because he can really contribute on special teams. And then some developments here that could change over the next couple of weeks. Kick returners. Isaac Guerendo is the leading kick returner next to Patrick Taylor, and then Junior Bergen and Dallas Flowers. Junior Bergen was one of the most elite return men from Montana in FCS football last year, but he was more of a punt returner. Right now, he is the second-string punt returner behind Jacob Cowing as we flip the page to the punt returners here, but Cowing is injured with that hamstring. And so with this preseason opener coming up on Saturday, Junior Bergen has an opportunity to impress a lot of people. Jordan Watkins, the 4th-round pick out of Ole Miss of note, does have return experience from his time in college. Maybe he, too, gets some looks there as well. Get those pens out. I want you to grade this Niners roster. Scale it for me from 1 to 100. The starting situation, offense, defense, I like it. The depth pieces, though, I'm a little bit concerned.